this feeling, baby, we're invincible.
Hi guys, and welcome back to another episode of Rebuilding Notts County, the analysis days. As always, drop a like, that'll be really helpful. Even on these videos, it does kind of help out a lot. And it's nice that so many of you have actually been watching these videos. They've been doing way better than they normally do, actually, on these saves. So I'm glad that a load of you that may not have watched them before have stepped over, or maybe it's just new people joining the channel. Either way, glad you're enjoying them, because I sure as hell am as well. So, first things first, obviously I'm actually recording this the day after our end of season wonderfulness when we have been promoted to the Premier League, because this is going to be a very interesting transfer window for us, because we're going to analyse, obviously, what we've done this season, look to where we did well and where we didn't. I think my predictions beforehand is going to be that Ricky Griffiths massively outperformed Ron Coates. I believe that Tyrese Campbell's stats are going to be better than Costal Troffin, but I don't believe that's a reason that I'm going to drop him, because I do believe that he's going to get there. You know, I think he just needs a chance. He's still only 17, remember, and he's been leading the line for a team that have just been promoted to the Premier League. So we've given him a lot of responsibility, it's fair to say. I think that the left-hand side is a definite thing that needs to be looked at in terms of the defensive side of things, although I do think that towards the end we were starting to get a lot more out of that left-hand side from an attacking perspective, and I think with players, honestly, if we could just get wingers that could cross the ball and dribble, the two things, then I actually think that we'll be onto something with this system, and we'll get even better. I think for centre-backs we need to make sure that they're going to be quick, have good positioning and decisions and all that sort of stuff if we're going to play this offside trap, and I do intend to continue with this more aggressive strategy in the Premier League. But we will need some alternative strategies to take on some of the better sides, or we'll just go hell for leather and see what happens and have a season where we concede like 80 goals but score like 60. That'd be kind of fun, I suppose. So, I'm going to start off We're going to start off at home against Regan Booty. So, I mean, you can see that he started off the season on a high, but to be fair, he hasn't fallen a great deal. It's just that over the course of a year where he's played 44 times for us, got 1 goal this year. So he did at least score a goal. Well, 2 in all competitions. But he also got 23 assists in all competitions, 21 of which were in the league. He got an average of an assist every other game, which is ridiculous. Just utterly insane. And the fact is, he only has 11 passing. 16 vision really does help. And great composure too. But the fact that he gets as many as assists as he does, like his free kicks and corners are fine, but they're not like exemplary. They're not in the blue or anything. It's just, I don't know, something just very special about him. He just seems to have the perfect combination of stats and attributes to make things work for us. Still only 26 years old. He's going to have played and scored in every single professional league of English football, as well as the National League. Hopefully, he'll get a goal in the Premier League next year, and he's definitely going to be playing for us. Now, I know you might think, oh, you should sign someone with all that money. The fact is, Regan Booty will be our starting centre midfielder next year. There is no way I would not do that to it. I would not do him like that. I just wouldn't. So, that's the way Regan Booty's... I mean, just looking at his career, since we can take a little time here, he's played 40 games a season, at least, in every single season for us, in this save. And he's scored in every single division and got double-figure assists in every single year. Weirdly, this actually wasn't his best year. His best season for us was actually in the League 2, which is kind of weird, actually, when you consider. His worst year was the League 1 season, where he still got 5 goals and 13 assists. But this is actually his second best season, despite the 21 assists and 8 Player of the Match awards. What a crazy lad. 83 assists he's got. That is ridiculous. To have got 83 assists in league football, I'll be very surprised if he doesn't reach 100 within the next 2 seasons. I think he's going to get there. And, wow, what an absolute legend of this save. Anyway, I can dwell over Regan Booty all I want. He's still considered the best player at the club right now, to give you an idea. I always start these on the best star rating player. So, and then when I go down, it doesn't always go in that order for some reason. I'm not entirely sure what order. I think it might be alphabetic after that. So, Robbie Burton, solid season for him. 7 goals, 4 assists. I've been pleased with his output this season. As much as this has been a bit all over the place, like he really dipped down before Christmas, bringing it back up again, and it's kind of tailed off towards the end of the season. I think he's got better towards the end of the year. I've got to be honest. I think Robbie Burton's had a pretty stellar season for us. That's 17 passing, 13 vision only, but he really can pick a pass when needed to. Like, I think this has been probably one of his best years for us. I mean, it's very evident. Like, not actually his best year for us, his second best, because he didn't contribute as many assists this year, but 7 goals in the league for us is much better, and it's kind of more what I want from a box-to-box midfielder. Like, we've got Booty to provide the assists. We don't really need Burton to chip in with them as much as he has been, but getting 7 goals in the league is vastly more like it, and I think that's mostly come towards the end of the season. If we look at his form, you can see that he's chipped in with reasonable... goal here, goal here, goal here, like... More recently, he's actually been chipping in with some goals. So that's pretty damn pleasing for me so far. So we're not going to dwell on them quite as much. Tyrese Campbell. Solid player. You know, he's got 9 goals for us in the league this year, a couple of assists. I just feel like what Troffin does that Campbell doesn't do. Firstly, he's faster. He is more agile and has better physical stats in those areas already. And remember, I started this season with Campbell in goal, and he just didn't ever really go anywhere. But also, my theory with him is that he doesn't provide enough assists. Despite having 11 passing and 12 vision, he just doesn't get as many assists. But maybe I'll be wrong. Maybe I'll be proved wrong. So that's Tyrese Campbell. Ron Coates. What a strange player he's proven to be for us. What a weird old year. Like, a guy that really flew out of the traps early doors. And you can see now that there's a little bit of doubt about his actual potential overall. I mean, he's still worth £7.75 million. And to be honest, if I got a bid and I could lump it up to maybe 12, 13 mil with some good clauses, I would be tempted to sell, I have to say. Now, yes, I grant you, I think it's still comfortably... No, it's actually not his best season for the club. In his first season, weirdly, where he actually played regularly, he got 3 goals and 7 assists. And averaged over a 7. Last year, though, he got 4 goals, but 6 assists. This year, he got 9 goals. Definitely his best goal tally in a year, but he contributed absolutely nothing from a creative perspective, as we saw. And I think that's because, generally speaking, when he got the ball, it was in an attacking position, and he just never squared it. But Ricky Griffiths does seem to be better. I don't know, we'll have to see. It's one of those things where we won't notice who's actually better until we see the stats. David Connolly, been out on loan at Solihull Moors this year. You'll notice there's been a lot of players out on loan, but you'll get to see some of them, and my goodness, some of them have actually torn up... I might even show you the loan report in case we miss a few, because they might be in the under-18 squad. Remember Jewic? 15 goals this year, 6 assists, 5 red cards. I mean, what an absolute madman. I don't know what he's been playing at over in Bosnia, but fair enough, I suppose. Kieran Dewsbury Hall. Only made 2 starts. Can't really judge him based on particularly much of that. His contract is up next summer, so he's not going to be going anywhere this summer unless there's a massive bid. So I'm interested to see where he could go. Maybe there is still some time to bring him back into the fold, but I don't know. I feel like we might be able to find someone better in the summer. I just realised there's going to be some trial players in here too, so I need to skip over those, otherwise we'll be here all day, because we've constantly been taking a few little players on trial here and there. Niall McPhee, I mean, he's just had a season where he's just not featured at all. His contract is actually expiring soon. I don't think I want to let it expire, though. But I'm concerned he might want way too much wages, and that's my problem with McPhee. Like, there's a lot of things that he actually is really solid in, but he's just never... Maybe he'd be better this season now. Maybe we've changed the approach. Maybe he'd be better. And he's still only 20. I think I probably will give him a new contract, providing... Because he does want to stay. Providing he doesn't, like, want too much money. I mean, if he wants, like, $3,000 a week, then I'm just not having it, unfortunately. The great thing about... getting a lot of new players on new contracts before we were promoted means that they want to start their new contracts soon, so they're not going to ask for new ones in the summer, because you know the moment you go to the Premier League, they all want huge money. Daniel Evans, young Welsh centre-back, has only featured a couple of times in the Cup this year. Solid performances for him, I suppose, but nothing major there, really, if I'm honest. Akinfenmewo, I mean, he's been out on loan at Doncaster this year, hasn't really played, hasn't really done all that well. Scott Fuster has got a goal for us this season. He was supposed to be the sort of backup in that Robbie Burton role. He's just slowly coming into his game. He's very, very quick, agile, great on the ball there. He's very aggressive too. Got a nice little dribble about him too, good passing, good vision. There's a lot to like about old Scotty Fuster, and I think he's definitely improved this year. Still only 19 years old. There's a lot to like. He's not contributed too much just yet, but I feel like I'm prepared to give him a chance because he's much younger. So he deserves that little extra bit of a leeway, I suppose. Fjodor Lervik, just the 1 goal and no assists this year at all from the 20-year-old Norwegian. That actually surprises me. For a guy that's played as many games as that, like 20 starts and 15 substitute appearances to only get a goal and an assist, that's actually pretty bad. Just as well Nico Williams has been around, because that is actually pretty appalling, if I'm honest. Brandon Fleming, similar story, 13 starts, 7 substitute appearances, and just the 1 assist to his name this season, and a goal in the Carabao Cup. So, yeah, I mean, Brandon Fleming, also, he's on £3,000 a week, so getting rid of him would be a very smart thing to do in the summer if we can at all do that. That would be quite useful. Ricky Griffiths has definitely stepped his game up towards the end of the season, I have to say. I would say I'd try and get him on a new contract, but he's got 4 years left, so I think we'll probably be all right on that one. The crossing is solid, the dribbling is solid. He's insanely fast. Like, that acceleration is brilliant. 7 goals in the league, 6 assists, a nice sort of comfortable amount. I think this is probably the best season of his career, comfortably. He's played a lot more games, but he's contributing way, way more this year. 7 goals in the league, 6 assists, and you guys saw 5 of them in live comms, which is utterly insane. I don't know why he just turned up for the cameras, it would seem. Guberinic, for a guy that mostly played as an advanced playmaker when he played, he actually got 3 goals for us in the league this year. A couple of assists in there too. He's 6 foot tall. I think this guy's a really useful player to have around. He's done a decent job for us this year when he's been called upon. Although he does complain a bit about the amount of football he's been getting, so that is a slight problem potentially, but still not too bad. This is Robin Hale as well. I've got him on trial from Middlesbrough. I just thought you guys might like to see him anyway, because he looks like he could be quite good. So he might be someone I might try to go after, just to give us a little bit more backup. So we've got two options with Kostel in. We'll have Gabriel Arnold, and if we could get Robin Hale as well, we'll have a hailstorm up there. That's a great first touch. I mean, I just think 18 years old, we could probably get him not cheap because he's English, but interesting. Then we've got our man Egil Hermansson, the Icelandic defensive midfielder. Okay this year. He got an assist. He didn't score as many goals this season. I think it's because we changed the shuffling around of the free kicks slightly, but I mean, he's pacey, he's powerful, he's strong. He does a lot of things that I like, so I'm completely content with his performance this year. I think he's not been as good this year as last, but I think that comes from the fact that he's not scored goals for us, and the game does take a lot of that into account, unfortunately. Sam Hughes, what a season. 9 goals in the league, 10 in total. He's got 10 goals in 50 matches. For a centre-back to score 1 in 5 is utterly just insane. He wants to move to a bigger club. The problem is he has a release clause of like £4.8 million, and that would be a shambles. If we lose Sam Hughes in the summer, that could be a real problem, because he's been excellent. Does have an injury problem, but I mean, he's played 50 times this year, so clearly not that big of a problem, but it would concern me if we can't get him on a new deal, and this is a little bit of an issue for me. Curtis Jones, I mean, I can't fault him. You know, he's got 11 goals, 6 assists this season. I'm a fan of that. I think, honestly, if we had a player that was stronger on their left foot and had the exact same attributes as Curtis Jones, I think they'd have done even better, to be honest, because this year he really has stepped up. Like, he's added 1 more assist to his game, but he's also added 5 more goals. Now, albeit over a longer period of time, but still, there's definitely something solid about him that I really like. Got Lee. He's barely featured at all this year, but he does just sort of keep improving amazingly. I mean, look at the agility, pace, and acceleration of the young lad. I think we need to get him a loan spell. He really does need to get a loan spell. Stephen Lennon, backup goalkeeper, not really going to be playing a great deal, unfortunately, for the lad. Maybe get him out on loan at some point, not really sure. Here's one you might be interested in. Harry McGuigan. Remember when I signed him? We went out on loan to Newport County in League 2 this year, and what a season he's had. 4 goals, fine, but he's got 16 assists this year. McGuigan looks like he might actually have a bit about him, to the point where he could maybe do a job for us at some point. Definitely, though, he would, I mean, passing of 11, vision, I don't know which role he would probably play. Like, box-to-box or advanced playmaker, it's really hard to say. He's got dreadful finishing, so that could be potentially hindering him. It's really hard to know what kind of position he would like to play in, but he's had a wonderful season on loan. Radislav Miech, of course, hasn't played that much game time for us just yet, coming as mostly a backup this season, but that's fine by me. It didn't cost us a great deal of money. It's just nice to have a bit of rotation options in those spots. And it's a similar story with Vladislav Nekrashevic. Only 1 start in the league, but I'm okay with that. The fact is, he's got incredible tackling ability, and a lot of things I really like about this guy. He is a bit limited in some ways, but I'm alright with that. I think there's more to come from the guy. Dara O'Shea's barely played. He's got a couple of goals for us too, presumably when he was replacing Sam Hughes. He's been a reasonable signing for us, even though since he actually joined us permanently, he's not played as much, but he's just useful to have around. We've got Amel Omerovic, who has only started like a couple of matches for us properly this season, just the 1 goal, but he's definitely getting them, and there's a lot of pros about this guy. He's still not on massive money. I think maybe a loan spell for him next season could be a very good move for him. The one thing he lacks is his height. Is his heading ability. But, I don't know. I think there's definitely a lot more to come from him. I know I'm saying that about a lot of players, but it's true. Old Mamakon Oz, he started 1 game in the league, couple of substitute appearances, just hasn't really cut the mustard at the club. Huge money as well. I mean, by Premier League standards, it's going to be nothing, but he might leave in the summer. Martin Payton, did okay when we came in. That left-back spot has just been a massive issue for us, to be honest, so he's not been any different to the others in that shot. And obviously we've got old Vitamin P here. Now, he might have only kept 6 clean sheets in 17, but the amount of saves this guy has made has just been utterly amazing. So I'm more than happy with his performances for us, quite frankly, and he seems to be getting better, and that's fine by me. I love him. And of course, it's our man. It's Count Truffles. So, 10 composure now. It's better. I've taken him off of his final third training, because I think he's got a reasonable level of composure and decisions now, to the point where I don't want to dwell on it too much. I want to give him a bit more rounded training so we can start working on other stuff too. Like, the fact is, 13 goals in the league, but also 5 assists, which is quite a nice little addition. 18 goals in total in all competitions is still a reasonable amount. He's sort of, I would like more. I would like more goals, and I think next year he will contribute more goals overall as he just continues to improve. But he's getting there. It's slowly but surely he's getting there, and that's all I can ask for him. Stephen Walker, I mean, 32 starts in the league, just the 2 assists from that left-hand side. I don't know. I really don't know what the deal is with that left-hand side. Maybe we really want... I mean, the thing is, though, right? He's got incredibly good marking and tackling. He's a great defensive player. If he was just a little bit taller, maybe he'd just do more of a job for us there. He just... I don't know. He's a really decent player who just doesn't seem to quite perform well in the system we play. And then there's Nico Williams. 1 goal, 7 assists this year. And I think he is kind of the point I'm making. 6'2", you know, decent passing, great solid tackling. Marking's not even that good, but he performs really, really well. I want to see how those two actually compare from a defensive standpoint, because that's kind of very important. But he's also contributed 7 assists this season, which is great. We've had Josh Wright out on loan at Wrexham, barely played for them, but he has got a couple of goals. And obviously we've got Armand Tunji, who has not scored a goal in the league this year, despite getting so many goals last year. This is what I was trying to say when people are saying, he contributes so many goals. I don't think it's the fact that he contributes so many goals so much as he was in the position to get those headers, and this year Sam Hughes was the guy that was in those positions, and that's why he got the goals instead. But we'll see how he's actually performed defensively this year, like in terms of tackles, headers won, the important stuff, because he is fast. And I think that might actually play into his hands a bit more when he's got, 12 decisions, solid positioning, is determined. I think he might actually perform better in a new higher line that we're looking at, so he might be someone to keep a hold of, to be honest. And we're back to Regan Booty. Right, let's go look at the match stats and the individual ones. Apologies if this is going to be a bit of a longer one, but hey, sometimes you need to take that little bit of extra time about things. So, average possession, sure, we're about where we want to be. That'll probably be higher next. Oh, no, it won't, because we're in the Premier League. Haha. Penalties taken, 8. My God, Fulham had 13 pens. And we only scored 5 of our 8 as well. Headers won, right down towards the bottom. Fine by me. Although headers won ratio, it could do with being a little bit higher for my money. Red card. Wow, we actually had 4 red cards. We were a dirty bunch this season. Yellow cards. That's so strange. We're one of the lower teams on yellow cards, but much, much higher on reds, weirdly. Form, we don't care about that one. Goals scored. So we actually didn't finish as the top scorers in the league. We actually didn't score in that final episode at all out of the 3 matches as it goes. Cross completion. 24% with... I mean, look at this. This is what I mean, right? If our wingers could cross the ball, I reckon we'd be more like here. And that's so important for us. Crosses completed. Still not too bad, but just think how many we'd get. 17 goals from corners Fulham scored. And we think we score a lot from corners, but Fulham have absolutely abused corners this season. So we got 10 from corners, which isn't too bad. None from indirect free kicks. No surprises there. Oh my God. Fulham got 17 goals from corners, 11 from indirect free kicks as well. They were bloody good at them. And Leeds as well with 15 from indirect free kicks, but we did get 10 ourselves. Pass completion ratio, solid, right where I want it to be. Not completing as many of the overall passes, but look at that. Chances created, 205. We cracked 200 chances, which is delightful. Best shots on target ratio, always nice to see. The second most shots on target as well. I think we've earned that. Leeds, weirdly, I feel like Fulham should have maybe done better than they did. Conversion ratio, despite our constant misses, we still have a decent amount of conversions, which is surprising. Dribbles per game, not quite the most. Saints had the most. Best defence, not quite the best defence in the end, but one of the best defences in the league at 40, which is really what I wanted from us. We were really solid at the back. Conceded from corners, only 5. Not the end of the world, which is nice to see. Oh, Forest, dearie me. Did concede a direct free kick, but that's just life. Fulham didn't even concede many indirect free kicks, and we conceded 8, so that's a definite thing we could look at, but I don't really know what to do about that, to be honest. Clean sheets, 19. Pretty damn good. Fouls made, don't make many fouls. Fine by me. Tackles won, we barely need to because we've got a lot of the ball, but we win a lot of them when we do get the chance to make them, which is fine. Conceded 2 penalties, that's not bad compared to Swansea. Attendance overall, obviously ours is going to be fairly low, but by capacity, it should be right up there. 98%. We had how many sellouts? 16. Why did we not have more? I feel like we should have had more sellouts, to be honest. Highest attendance, of course, would be 19,000, and our lowest is probably... It's pretty solid, to be honest. Net transfer spend, here you go. So we spent a grand total of £300,000 to be promoted. Blackburn spent 17 million. Or no, did they? What are we talking about? No, what are we talking about? We made £300,000. Fulham, on the other hand, spent nearly 30 million. Southampton, 30... I mean, that's ridiculous. The fact that Southampton spent that amount of money and didn't get promoted. What about salaries? You'll love this. There we go. 23rd highest salary in the division, and we've just been promoted to the Premier League. And up with us, I mean, Southampton are paying nearly £50 million a year on salaries, more than 10 times what we're paying, and there we go into the Prem. It's embarrassing, really. I've got to be honest. But there we are, into the Premier League. We're secure finances. Next year, hopefully, we'll be rich and really start to look after the finances for a few seasons. Like, we've got that £31 million to spend. I don't intend to spend all of it, because that's just not how I do these things. You know that. Anyway, let's move on to player stats, see if there's anything interesting standing out. So appearances, games won, game lost. These ones aren't super important, but the yellow cards one. 18 is quite a lot. And we didn't have anyone on here at all, which means Nico Williams seems to have calmed down a little bit. Or was it Duhaney? Oh, I say that. He did get 2 reds, though. So there is that slight problem. Booty got joint most man of the match awards, and he did it in 1 less game, too, so that should really help. Burton also got 5, though. That's a really noticeable stat, though. Distance covered per game. I mean, look at that. Jones, Fjordov Lervik, and Regan Booty are the highest 3. That says a lot to me. He really does get about, like, considerably more than Nico Williams. He covers some ground, I've got to say. Average rating, I mean, Nico Williams was the 4th highest. Sam Hughes was the 7th highest in the league. Anyone else? Not quite. Any regens on here? Oh yeah, of course, he's Geraldo, and also this guy they've got on loan from someone. These are all mostly players on loan, I think, unfortunately. Headers won. Wow, Jake Cooper's won everything. Sam Hughes winning everything. Compared to Giacchinola, anyway, he's won more. Goals. So, Kostel Trofan, still, joint 10th highest scorer in the league with 13. It's not a great year overall, but, like, nobody even comes close to his age on here. There's no teenagers on this list at all, so I'll take that. And Tyrese Campbell, there you go, this is what I mean. He does actually have a much better goals to minutes ratio, so that's worth definitely paying attention to, I suppose. See what it's like to shots, I suppose. Shots as well, 157 shots, that's a lot. Trofan had 104 though, so it's not too bad actually. His conversion rate must be solid. Shots on target as well, 57. And look at that, Ron Coates, 52. Like, he has to be better. Shots on target ratio, Ricky Griffiths at 60%. So he's hitting the target more than Ron Coates. You can see immediately by 5%. So that's kind of interesting. Conversion rate. Curtis Jones at 16%. That is actually kind of interesting. One of the highest in the league. Tyrese Campbell at 16% too. Team goals, not that important really. Assists, I mean, Regan Booty got 9 more than anyone else. Nico Williams also on the list. Key passes, Regan Booty 10 more than Alfie McCalmont, who was really good for Leeds this year. He was their own sort of Regan Booty kind of player, but it did not matter at all. Chances created. He created 52 chances this year. Like, conceivably, he could have had even more assists this season, if I'm honest. To get 20 more chances than James Ward-Prowse is insane. Pass completion, obviously McGee is on there for us/West Brom. Cross completion, no one on there at all. Dribbles per game, still Ron Coates, but Ricky Griffiths isn't that far behind. This is what I mean. Maybe actually, I would be completely prepared to admit I would be wrong about Ricky Griffiths, because the stats would suggest that in the areas that I like about Ron Coates, he's nearly there. And he seems to do a lot of things that we didn't like about Ron Coates much, much better. So we'll see. Tyrese Campbell, I mean, from a defensive standpoint, not too bad either. Tackles per game. Renan Lurdy, he doesn't play for them anymore. He moved for massive money, I think, to Lazio. I remember seeing, because someone's like, how the hell is he playing for them? Well, the truth is he's not anymore. He's moved for £18 million. So he was making a hell of a lot of tackles before he moved, though, which is what I would say. We have no one on here at all. Mistakes leading to goals. Luke McGee. I mean, there you go, really. There you go. The Charlton goalkeeper, Kieran O'Hara, 2 of those were in the same game against us. So there's that. That's good. We're not on the mistakes one. Key tackles, not on there at all. Key headers, Sam Hughes, 122. He's definitely outperforming Akinola in that. Interceptions, Akinola's better than Sam Hughes on that, though. Maybe. Headers 1 ratio. Nico Williams at 84. None of the centre-backs there to be seen. McGee, obviously on there, nothing for that, really. This one's not really that useful for us because of the way things have gone. So, let's go and check in some stuff. Now, there's, again, no point in looking at goalkeepers because we can't see the stats of Luke McGee compared to... Oh, man, there's Louis Molden. Love it. Old baghead himself. Lovely old job. He's doing all right for Reading, isn't he, really? So, yeah, we're just going to go straight to centre-backs now. Okay, so centre-backs... Here's the way I'm looking at things right now. And just to like, we do have other options. There's Brian Graham, and there's a few more sort of younger players. But I would like to have a look at some more young centre-backs, actually, because we're just starting to run out of the real youngsters to bring through. But I'm pleased with the Medovic and the Krashevic. So, honestly, I don't expect to see anything other than the fact that Hughes and Akinola have been the best. That's fine. But it'd be nice to see some of the others maybe giving me some signs of, like, I mean, you can look at this. For a start, to be fair, O'Shea's been solid. Like, when he's played, he's done all right for us. 0.74 goals per game conceded. I mean, you can see that Omerovic is much higher, and Nekrashevic is even higher than that. From an interceptions point of view, once again, those 3 are coming out on top. Dara O'Shea seems to definitely be able to mix it, which makes me think it's good, because he's clearly a very capable player. Like, he can definitely do a job when called upon. No mistakes leading to goals for any centre-back is a very solid sign. But one thing I would say is that Dara O'Shea's tackles 1 ratio is much, much worse than Hughes and Akinola, both right above 90 where I want it. Amerovic should... I mean, look at that, Nekrashevic at 57. Like, he's started 3 games. Like, he should have a better tackles 1 ratio than that. That is concerning. For a guy that doesn't have, like, 16 tackling, that has to be an anomaly. There must be some other factor about him. Maybe his bravery's really... No. Flair leadership. I don't know. That's a weird one. I think that must just be like a blip because maybe he's not played enough games. But then you feel like O'Shea has played. He's played 1,200 minutes of football. That's not good enough there. Now the question is how much of an effect that has overall, of course. But again, you can see that that's where it starts to fall down. So Hughes and Akinola, their pass completion ratios, again, are vastly better than the other three. They are clearly the standout players. Key passes, it's hard to read into some of them. But you can see that O'Shea is definitely the worst. But those two have made more, but it's really just hard to know. But what I would say, though, from a defensive standpoint, Akinola winning 66% is poor compared to Sam Hughes. He's at least doing slightly better. Nekrashovic is at least winning stuff in the air for us, so that could definitely be a factor for us going forward. Dribbles per game is irrelevant. Crosses per game is irrelevant. Assists doesn't matter because they are defenders. The occasional lumped ball through, I guess, kind of matters, but honestly, I wouldn't expect them to get any assists at all. Team goals per 90 minutes, not super important from a centre-back standpoint because I don't feel like we're going to score many more goals because they're in the team. It's more about how few we concede because they're in the team. And obviously, Sam Hughes has an insanely good record for goals this year with 10. Like, undeniable. Hits the target more than most of them anyway. And he does have more shots than Tunji Akinola, but again, it could come down to the position he's in. So you can see, we actually win less points with Sam Hughes in the team compared to Dara O'Shea. So that's definitely worth noting. But it does seem that he does the bread and butter a little bit worse overall. And the other two aren't quite there yet, which is kind of exactly what we expected. So if I can, I'd happily start with Sam Hughes and Tunji Akinola in the Premier League next year, unless we find someone amazing. And again, the budget just isn't there for us to actually go and sign someone who's as good as them out the traps, unless we can get a free transfer or pure luck from one of the lower leagues, from like one of the Eastern European leagues where you can get them on the cheap perhaps. I don't know, maybe possible. My best bet, I think, is to go and try and find a few more 17, 18-year-olds with high potential that we can start to bring through. Because long term, I think Amerovic is going to be one of our back line. But it's going to take him a little while to sort of bed in, get him some more game time next year, maybe get him a loan spell, don't really know. But I don't think it's an area I'm particularly concerned about because we were really good defensively last year for the most part. I think this new high line's actually going to suit Akinola more because he's fast, and which means that if we do get the offside trap wrong, he can actually, recover from it. So I'm alright with that, to be honest. I would happily start next year with Hughes and Akinola in those spots with some good youngsters backing them up with O'Shea. Maybe sign someone who's like, I don't know, a 22-year-old who's a little bit better to maybe give some... But then again, like, Dara O'Shea is the same kind of ability rating as the other two. So I think we're pretty much covered for that. But I would like to sign some more youth just to sort of give us some more quality coming through, perhaps. I don't know. Let's have a look at the fullbacks. Okay, so, fullbacks. This will be an interesting one. You can see immediately that the only player with a good rating overall is Nico Williams. Though Fjortov Lervik, 7's pretty okay. But they've all played a decent amount of minutes. Walker's actually played the most minutes. But Martin Payton, 700 minutes is enough for me to be able to look at those stats and see what we might be able to get out of things. So the first thing I want to see is if Walker's been as good defensively this year, because that's quite an important factor for me. Who's covering the most distance? So they're all over a reasonable area. Well, this is interesting. So Fleming actually has the lowest team conceded when such a weird situation. Walker, one of the higher ones this year, so he's not been as good defensively, and neither's Martin Payton. We've actually conceded less goals when Brandon Fleming was in the team this year, and he's played a solid amount of games. That's interesting because he's made more interceptions than them as well, and you can see that Lervik makes more interceptions than Nico Williams, which might explain why we concede less goals with him in the team as well, because he's just cutting stuff out right at the head. Tackles-wise, they're all relatively good, although Payton has fallen behind a little bit. In terms of tackles won, Walker does win more tackles, but so does Payton, in fairness. These two are so close together on this stuff. Passing, again, Payton is just that little bit off the pace of everybody else currently. Key passes per 90 minutes? Nico Williams, comfortably better than Lervik. Fleming, again, he's outperformed both of them this time. He wins less in the air, but Payton is better in the air than both of those two, so he definitely gives us a bit more. Is he taller? 5'10", yeah, and Walker's massively short. What about Brandon Fleming? He's 5'9". That shouldn't account for 20% less. Are their jumping reaches really disparate? Jumping reach of 8 compared to Payton's 10. I mean, still, feels like Fleming should be doing a bit better there, but sure. He wins more headers per game, as you'd imagine, but he does dribble a hell of a lot less. But what's really important, I mean, Fleming has not completed a lot of crosses at all. Nico Williams is better, but to be honest, Fjortov Lervik's cross completion ratio is actually not too bad. 16 is pretty solid. Like, 18 is better, sure. I feel like he probably should have more assists, really, just based on his cross completion alone. But maybe it's the type of crosses he's putting in, I don't know. Payton, weirdly, has got the best here, and I guess that doesn't I mean, he's also created way more chances. What's his crossing like? 10. Interesting. That could be an. I can't attribute too many things to being an anomaly because obviously stats are there for a reason. Team goals going forward, we can sort of, I mean, again, you can see we score more with Brandon Fleming in the team, but again, it's like how much of that is just due to coincidence from a defensive standpoint. We're normally, from the defenders, I'm more interested in like how many goals we concede with them in the team rather than how many we score, unless there's a really obvious one. But what I would say is it's a fair amount, over 2 a game with him in the team. It's pretty solid, and it certainly drops off when these two are around, to be fair. He hits way more shots on target per 90 minutes as well. That's a really large amount. Like, compared to these two, that's more than double. And we do win a decent amount of points per game with Brandon Fleming in the team. What a weird turn of events. So, as far as, like, players coming through, Ella and Bookbutt, but really, there's not, and obviously remember there's some players that are out on loan that won't be listed here because I've hidden the trial and loan players. So there are a few more potentially, but left back side, with Nico Williams next year, we've got some other players coming through potentially, so I'm alright with that, but I think we still need to look for a left back. I think that's something we've been looking at for a few years going, oh, is it Brandon Fleming? Oh, is it Stephen Walker? Oh, maybe Martin Payton. I think if I'm going to spend big money this summer, I might have to spend it on a left back. A tall, pacey, good defending, with good crossing and dribbling left back that can I basically want a left-sided Nico Williams. That's what we want. I feel like if we could get a player that does what he does on the left, that could really make a difference for us from a defensive standpoint. Because we've always had a player that can do one of the things that we want rather than all of them. And if I have to spend 10, 12 million pounds on a left back, then that's really going to be an area that I want to spend that money on. And I think that's really, really important to do. So that's kind of my conclusion there. So we actually can do a comparison for the defensive midfielders. Now, immediately you can see the average rating is lower, but I want to see what he's actually contributed to achieve such a thing. Because I think that's quite important. Now, he's obviously not quite on the level, but I think he might have more overall potential. But again, we will see. He started 6 times and made 4 substitute appearances. So, it's a reasonable amount. I don't know how many of those were in the league, but regardless. So, team conceded per 90 minutes. We do concede a tiny bit less with him in the team, so noticeable. But it's a minuscule. If it was like 0.5, then I'd be like, okay, sure. It's a small amount. Like, there's a margin of error there potentially. Does make less interceptions. Less tackles, but only just overall. And he is a better passer of the ball. Has he actually got better passing, or is he passing of 9? I mean, I can't imagine Hermansson's is that worse. In fact, it's better, so that's kind of interesting. Makes more key passes, interestingly, as well. But he is much, much worse in the air. That's the thing. Hermansson is only 5'11", but Mijic is 5'10", and is way worse in the air. That is appalling. Just wins nothing in the air. Is their jumping reach that disparate? 10 jumping reach? 9 jumping reach. Okay. It seems that Hermansson's just better at battling in the air for now. Better dribbler as well. Has achieved some assists, but that's not super important. Team goals scored, basically dead even with them. He does hit the target more, but he does shoot less. But we've won, 2.6 points per game when Radoslav Mijic is in the team. I feel like he's not ready to be taking over anytime soon, but it's so good to have Hermansson as our first choice and have a really, really capable deputy in Radoslav Mijic that can step in and do a job when we need him to. He seems to be a little bit more creative, although maybe we've just not got quite a large enough sample size. But I like the look of the way we've got there. We've got 2 good players in those positions who are quite capable of doing a job. They're young, lots of room to improve, and I'd be more than happy to go into next season with those 2. Obviously, if I pick up an amazing youngster that's in those roles too, we can get them in there too, but it's not like I want to be spending huge money to bolster this role, and we've got young talent who are already solid with plenty of room to improve still already in those positions. So I'm alright with that. I don't think there's much more we can really say about the defensive midfield position so far. And I might still look out for an amazing goalkeeper if I find one, The option is still there potentially for me. Although I'm a fan of Vitamin P so far. He's just, despite his attributes, and he makes so many saves. And we're really forcing him to make them too. So I'm pleased about that. So far, really, left back is my main concern. So we'll do sentiments now. This should be interesting though. Okay, so we've got 4 players to compare. Now, I'm including Kieran Dewsbury Hall here, but 220 minutes is not really enough for me to make that much of a judgment on him, so I'm going to kind of just exclude him from this, really. The other guys have all played 1,000 minutes at least, though, so there's enough for me to look at this and go, actually, yeah, Guberinic has traditionally replaced Regan Booty, but I have occasionally brought him on as a sub to replace Burton, and Fuster has almost always replaced Robbie Burton, so that's really what we're kind of looking at here. So, in terms of distance covered, Fuster gets about, so does Booty. Nobody's really lacking, although he does get about a bit more than Robbie Burton, in fairness to him. So, from a defensive standpoint, we concede more goals with Fuster and Guberinic in the team, which would make sense because they are the less experienced of the two players. The understudies, they lack a little bit maybe in the defensive qualities there. Their brain, they can't quite process things as quickly as they might like. What I would say though is look at that. Guberinic is cutting shit out. Like, this guy is making those interceptions for us. That is a noticeable upward trajectory, particularly over Regan Booty. That's nearly double. And I think that comes down to his height. He's winning stuff in the air and cutting out balls before they get a chance to come through. So that is definitely a noticeable sort of plus column option for Guberinic when he plays. So that I definitely have to note. He also wins every tackle too, which is solid. Even more so than Regan Booty. Fuster's slightly better in the tackle though than Robbie Burton, and he does win more per game. So he's a bit more of a dynamo in that midfield. Guberinic and Regan Booty don't win many tackles anyway, so there is that aspect of things. Robbie Burton, solid passer of the ball. In fact, really, really solid at 80% considering where he plays. Booty, not quite there, but he does tend to play longer passes. So I'm all right with that. And key passes as well. You can see Guberinic is definitely out of the Regan Booty mould. He's just not quite got there yet. But still, 2 key passes per 90 minutes, or just over, is pretty good. Fuster's not far behind Robbie Burton on that one either. Guberinic has a long way to go before he's at Regan Booty levels. But then, what's important to note is that Regan Booty's levels are in a league of his own. To average more than 3 key passes a match over the full season is ridiculous. I would be very happy if a player's averaging more than 2 a game. And Guberinic is already doing that now, so maybe there's room for him to get even better. And he adds that aerial presence, which Booty just doesn't have. I mean, that's a nice little addition to the team. And look at this. He averages 5 headers, 1 per game. He is an extra body in that midfield that allows us to dominate the balls, particularly when they clear long. He can win that for us when none of the other players in our midfield have that option. So that alone makes Guberinic a useful player to have around because he just gives us something different, to be honest. Now, obviously, Fuster's going to dominate this because he's a really good dribbler of the ball. And to have someone that can do that through the centre is certainly nothing to be sniffed at, but he does need to contribute more goals. Because he gets in the positions, but he cannot seem to score. Guberinic, again, is a much better dribbler than Regan Booty as well. And we've seen that because he's scored more goals than Regan Booty this year, despite playing less than around about the quarter of the minutes. Like, he scored 3 times for us this season. Booty's only scored twice. Guberinic gets forward better because he can dribble more and he can go past a person, whereas Booty just doesn't seem to quite have that at the moment. And also, from a cross completion ratio, like, I know they're often playing out wide, very rarely out wide. They're all 20 plus. That's really, really solid. Assists per 90 minutes, Regan Booty obviously up there. Guberinic has grabbed a couple of assists though. And, he's nowhere near Regan Booty numbers. But then remember, Booty takes corners and free kicks. So a lot of Regan Booty's assists have come from set pieces. So again, and Guberinic wouldn't have been taking them. So we don't know how those numbers would have been from like pure open play stuff. But what is worth noting here, again, Regan Booty over a chance created per game. Robbie Burton and Fuster are very, very close on that one. And Dewsbury Hall isn't far off either. Guberinic is definitely on the right track towards Regan Booty numbers, but he's not there yet. But he's definitely getting there. From an attacking standpoint, sure, Dewsbury Hall, but it's 2 games, so I don't know. Guberinic, though, we score a decent amount of goals with him in the team. Robbie Burton and Fuster are around about the same. It does kind of feel like Guberinic could actually be a very capable replacement for Regan Booty when he's not available. He puts up some really solid numbers to the point where I would not be embarrassed at all to have to start him in a game. He's done better than I thought he would. And his goals per 90 minutes is by far the best, even better than Robbie Burton, who's got 8 goals this year. It's like a full season of Alexander Guberinic. You'd expect him to probably break double figures with the amount of goals he's actually been scoring. He's only started 7 times and he's got 3 goals. Like, that's a decent amount, considering how rarely he hits the target as well. The reason Robbie Burton's got so many goals is because he hits the target more. But Guberinic does seem to have more shots overall. Like, the lad likes a shot, and, I mean, undeniable here. 2.26 goals. Yeah. I mean, Fuster, clearly the worst of those in terms of an attacking perspective. But look at that, Guberinic. He has done really, really well this year. I have maybe underrated him a little bit. Like, I've liked what he's done. I mean, that equaliser against Leeds was great. He's got a goal, I think, against Arsenal in the Cup. And I think he also got one against QPR or someone. The guy has done stuff. He's creative. He wins stuff in the air for us. He's still far behind Regan Booty, but he's still putting up respectable numbers for a 19-year-old. I like him. I like him a lot. And I've actually liked him a lot more now that I've seen these attributes. So, I still want more depth here, I think, though. Because Robbie Burton seems to be kind of maxing himself out a little bit. And he's good, he is. But I wonder if we could do better. Maybe. We definitely need to sign some more. And then again, we've got so many midfielders. Like, look at this. There's Hilton as well. Brendan Milnes, for crying out loud. George Carswell, James McBride, Ailton. And that's just the ones that are here. There's more if you include the ones that aren't actually at the club. There's a few on trial, obviously, but you've got McGuigan, Wright, Tozer, Morgan, Doherty, Wolf. Like, just the list just goes on and on and on. Also, this guy, Yeri Diaz, he's actually Andorran, which is kind of cool. He's not going to be quite good enough to actually stay here, but look, like, that's not bad for an Andorran player, I've got to say. And he's a perfectionist as well, which is really nice to see. He's going to be one of the best players that Andorra have ever had, I would have to say. So I just saw him and I was like, ooh, an Andorran player. We'll have a little look at him. He's not very good, though. But this guy here, he might be something. He was not rated very highly, but my scouts seem to like him more now. So maybe he'll join us. And he's called Van der Meulenhof, and you can't really go wrong with that. So let's move away from that now and go to wingers. Okay, so wingers. Lee did play 72 minutes over the course of a year, but I didn't think it was enough to really take into consideration. So what I'm really looking for here, and the main thing we're going to be assessing is, did Curtis Jones perform better than Dropkick McPhee? My answer is going to be yes. I have to agree that I feel like he will do. But the real question is whether Ricky Griffiths actually put up better numbers than Ron Coates. Because everybody likes him, sure, but I want to see if he actually put up the numbers to beat Ron Coates, because I think that's really, really important. We can like a guy as much as we want, but is he actually better empirically? So we'll have to see about that one. So let's start with distance covered. You can see immediately that Curtis Jones, but that's just because of the side they're on, I'd have to say. So defensively, bam, here we are. Ron Coates, we are better defensively with Ron Coates in the team, but again, maybe that could be down to all sorts of things, because again, they're more attacking players, but it is a very large gap, and remember, we played a lot of games towards the end of the year a bit more haphazardly, so that is potentially a factor to take into account. So he's definitely better, but how much of that is actually due to what and stuff, you know? Interceptions per game, Ricky Griffiths outperforms Ron Coates, definitely makes more interceptions, and Curtis Jones massively is better with the interceptions. From a tackles won ratio, Ricky Griffiths does make more tackles than Ron Coates. Only about 6% there, but, you know, it's definitely noticeable. And Dropkick McPhee, we already knew that he was a better defensive player than Curtis Jones. That's just what we know. Although he does actually make less tackles overall per game. Ricky Griffiths does make a few more. Pass-wise, Ron Coates is a slightly better passer, but it's a negligible amount. Key passes, Curtis Jones, better. Ricky Griffiths, definitely better than Ron Coates. And you can see McPhee is much, much worse. Ricky Griffiths is better in the air than Ron Coates. A negligible amount again, but Curtis Jones definitely outdoing it here. But Ricky Griffiths definitely wins more headers as well. Now, dribbles per game, we knew that he was going to be worse, but he's still putting up solid numbers. I mean, 6.48 is a ridiculous number, but 5.67 is still very, very good. Curtis Jones, not so good, which is odd, because I thought he was still a solid dribbler. He's got 14 dribbling, for crying out loud. How is he not putting up better numbers than that? Really, really surprising. Here's what matters, though. This is a really important stat for those wingers. Curtis Jones, 19% cross completion. Much, much better than the others. Ricky Griffiths, 13% compared to 9. Like, that, I think, is the really telling stat that makes Ricky Griffiths better. That is a huge step up. That's nearly there's probably about a 40-odd% increase in cross completion between the two of them. And over the course of a year, if they put enough crosses in, that has got to be leading to assists. Undeniably. And you can see the differences between these two as well. So McPhee's 13% is pretty solid, really, but it's not led to a lot of goals in the grand scheme of things. Still better than Ron Coates, though. But, like, you can see, Ricky Griffiths, he gets an assist every 4 matches, whereas Ron Coates, I mean, he'd be lucky if he get one a season at that kind of record, to be fair. And chance creation weirdly doesn't follow the exact same pattern, as Ron Coates is much better at chance creation, but gets less assists. And I do wonder if that means that he sometimes creates chances for himself. I don't really know. But the key thing is, once again, Ricky Griffiths is massively outperforming both of them. And McPhee is just useless. Both he and Ron Coates have just been awful. And Ricky Griffiths, again, standing out on that side of thing. Now, we do score more goals with him in the team, with Niall McPhee. But maybe it's because I've played him against weaker opponents. I don't know. But Ricky Griffiths, still better than Ron Coates. Now, goals per 90 minutes. Interestingly, Ron Coates actually has the highest, but Griffiths is the same as Curtis Jones. He's definitely up there, but we can't ignore the fact that it is actually lower than Ron Coates overall. Shots on target, they're almost identical. He does have less shots overall, and we do lose more points per game with him in the team. God damn. It's a really interesting situation we find ourselves in, because I feel like the job of a winger predominantly is to create goals, particularly as they rarely seem to score them because they always hit the target like that, right? So with the way the game engine is currently set out, I feel like I should be favouring a player that creates more goals from those side areas than actually scores. And that's why I feel like Ricky Griffiths just about edges it on that. Despite scoring less goals per game, I do wonder, though, if a proper run of the team, he might have actually scored more goals. He might have got himself going a bit, because he definitely can score goals for us, you know? At the end of the day, he's still got 7 for us this year, which is a solid amount. And Ron Coates really, that goal scoring tally mainly comes from the way he started the year. Like his second, like the second 2/3 really of the season, he barely contributed any goals. I think he probably contributed like one in his last like 25 appearances. So I think I've got to give it to Ricky Griffiths, but also I feel like maybe he's got a higher ceiling, so maybe he could go further than Ron Coates overall, and that's why I think he might be our starting right winger for next season, because he actually does look like he's capable of creating stuff from that side. But I would like a higher cross completion ratio. Honestly, if I found two wingers in the summer that have both of what I want with both dribbling and crossing, I would probably sign them both up on both sides, because Curtis Jones is good, but the wrong foot is, I still think, a bit of a problem, because he has to cut inside to get good crosses in. And imagine if he could whip them in with his left, because he just doesn't have it. I've got him working on his weak foot, but it's just not there. He's a really good player, but it's just not quite worked out for him. So that's kind of where I'm thinking, and I am starting to really reconsider even bothering to give Dropkick McPhee another contract at this point, considering how bad his numbers are. Like, he started 10 times for us and come off the bench a lot. He's got 1 assist and 2 goals this season. It's just not good enough. He doesn't contribute anything. He doesn't create anything. And it's not just that he's got unlucky with his assist. Like, his chance creation is so abysmally bad compared to the others. Just, it's not even in the same ballpark as them. His goals per game is half of what the others are. He doesn't hit the target anywhere near as much either. And I just don't think he's a good enough player. Maybe I'll keep him if I'm desperate, but I'm just really not sure. If he wants a really cheap deal, then maybe I'd consider keeping him on board for another year or two, just to have him around the club, or get him out on loan and get like a fee for him. I'm not really sure. But the key thing for me is I think Ricky Griffiths over Ron Coates and Curtis Jones obviously over Dropkick McPhee. But if I can find left and right wingers in the summer, I will sign them up. And if I have to spend big money on the left back and a left and right winger that can do exactly what I want, then that's what I'm going to go and do, basically. Because I think those are our biggest weak points in this squad. If we could get wingers that could cross the ball properly, like 14 crossing, that would be a really nice number, but with solid dribbling to go with it, because Ricky Griffiths does like to go past a man, and it's a nice factor. And then a left back that can do both things is what I really want to give us. Then maybe we could be onto something, because I think those are like the missing links in our team, is just trying to strengthen those positions that regularly get poor numbers. So yeah, let's go and have a look finally at strikers, because I feel like Tyrese Campbell's numbers are going to be good, but I still want to persist with Truffin because he's got that ceiling, you know? Okay, so here we are, the two of them. Campbell, you can see his average rating slightly higher, but I do pay attention to it a little bit, but I think these numbers are a bit more important in the grand scheme of things, but often they line up anyway. So Truffin covers more ground, but then he has played some games at left wing, so maybe that's a factor there. But they've both played a decent amount of minutes. Same 3 man of the match awards. But he's played basically double the amount of minutes. So he has made overall more mistakes, and we do concede slightly more goals with him in the team, but it is a small difference. A few more interceptions per game, not a huge amount. How the hell did Tyrese Campbell make a mistake leading to a goal? He is much better in the tackle, in terms of his ratios anyway, that's for sure. But they're roughly the same on that. And Tyrese Campbell does actually have better passing, weirdly, despite creating less assists, but maybe that's more negligible than I thought. He passes more, makes more key passes, and he's better in the air. He wins more headers, but he dribbles less. His cross completion is actually better as well, but he does get less assists. Chance creation is about the same, and we score more goals with him in the team. He scores more goals per 90 minutes as well, as we already know, and he hits the target more often. He shoots more, he's got a better penalty ratio, and we just about gain more points with him in the team. But I still come back to the fact that he's 7 years older than him and 7 years further along in his development, and it's not a situation, it's a situation where I know Tyrese Campbell, pound for pound, he's probably the better footballer, without a doubt. But I'm still going to play Truffles because I know that he can be a better footballer than Tyrese Campbell, and it's only a matter of time before he does that, and maybe next year will be the breakout season for him, where if he just got his numbers up to even to par with Tyrese Campbell, I think he'd be a 25 goal a season striker, which is a good start. And then I feel like he can go beyond that and go to 30 goals, 35 goals. I think he's got it in his tank to have a 40 goal season for us at some point in this save. He just needs to get there, but he's only 17, and I'm okay with that, you know? We still managed to get promoted this year, despite our top scorer only getting 18 goals, which is definitely the lowest I've had in a long time, because we got goals from everywhere. And as usual, I'm okay with that. So there's not really a lot to say on that one. As for terms of strikers coming through, like, there's not a lot, really. Youngster, Sean Lancaster can play there, I suppose. There's George Carswell. These guys aren't really strikers, if I'm honest. But what I would say is we do have players out on loan as well. And remember, we've got Arnie to come in as well. So we've got more options in that position next year once Arnie joins us and gives us a little bit extra. The guy's got 17 finishing. Like, that's a really solid amount. Maybe he can grab us a few more goals. Allow us to keep Truffin in bubble wrap a little bit. We won't have to play him constantly, and we can rotate around a little bit so we can stay fresh. And maybe, you know, he had a slight issue with like Regan Booty did a few years ago, where he had some good spells, but the point is his overall progression is in an upward trajectory, and I'm okay with that. So that's kind of where we're at right now. Let's see, what should we do as our word of the day? There's a receipt on my desk here. What's this from? This is from M's work. Okay, so well, let's see. The word of the day is going to be working wardrobe. There you go. You got this far into the video. Drop working wardrobe in the comments, or, you know, use it in a sentence really fully. So yeah, try that one. And yeah, if you've enjoyed this video, and I hope you have, drop a like on it. That would be awesome. If you're new to the channel, subscribe. It's going to be a fun-ass transfer window. It's going to be hectic as hell, though, because I don't like having too much money to spend sometimes, because I make mistakes with it. I tend to go, oh, well, I can afford it, even when I shouldn't be making the sign. So yeah, as always, hold your gun, capybara. Thank you so much for watching. Bye-bye.